Hello, everyone. We are so excited to have you back with another episode of a Superwoman Handbook. This is a collection of stories and tricks from women all over the world to help you navigate and solve all the things that we just don't talk about. And one of those things that's very taboo is money. We don't talk about money with ourselves. We don't talk about money with our kids besides what their allowances. And we definitely don't talk about how to have a healthy relationship with money. So I'm so excited to have Vicky with us today because she's going to help walk us down that very taboo path to help us all feel a little bit more empowered with this.
Thank you so much, Jillian, for having me on the podcast. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Yeah, money is a big topic. I mean, we handle money every day, so it's whether you're buying groceries or picking a dress or anything, or just paying your bills. It's something that we manage every day, and the thing is when we decide, sometimes it's subconsciously, unconsciously, when we decide to not focus on our relationship with money, how we feel around earning and spending and saving and investing, we're just depriving ourselves of our own power to control these financial flows in and out. And this can leave us very, very confused, very frustrated, and really without the clarity that we need when we come to a point where we need to take bigger decisions, bigger money decisions. So that kind of stops us in the tracks. And that's a little bit too late, when a late point to start thinking about how you manage your money, how you invest, save, and all the beautiful things that you can do with money when you use it as a tool. But yeah, it's a great pattern that I'm seeing lately, that this topic is being brought up more and more often, and that's beautiful. We need more of that.
So let's say that there's someone listening, and that person might be me. Um, and every time they hear the word money, they just go, shh, because it's a very negative, yeah, negative is just the best word I can think of. Kind of where do you start with those feelings?
Well, first, we need to recognize the feelings. We need to pay attention, like put some awareness that, oh, okay, when I hear money, there comes in fear, there comes in confusion. So I want to stay away from that topic. The first thing we need to do is notice those feelings. Then second step is think about why. Where does this come from? Why do I have this negative connotations when I hear the word? What are the associations that I get? And in a lot of cases, when we hear about money, we kind of relate it to debt or inability to bring in more income, or being stuck with not being able to afford things that we want in our lives. So that kind of, pushes us back from the whole idea of talking about money, as a whole. But yeah, the first thing is notice when these emotions come up, see them at that surface level, and really try to understand where do they come from? Is it something that we learned as children? Is it something that society taught us? Is it some deep belief under layers and layers of social and cultural upbringing that has us thinking, feel? It's more like a feeling, a negative feeling. For example, here where I am, we have a very strong myth, or saying, a very popular saying, that money doesn't grow on trees. So it's always so hard to get it, always so hard to work for it and bring it into your life. So therefore, whenever we see some more money coming in, we kind of cling to it. We want to save it, pile it up so that it doesn't go away. We put it, we have this expression here, we put them in jars and conserve them under the bed, so that we can be safe and secure and feel just fine with the situation. But all of that comes from fear. All of that comes from scarcity. And for example, in our region, we come from a very strong post-communist history, and the experiences that we had for a very, very long time were really connected to scarcity. Not many goods in the stores. You can't really go buy what you want because it's just not available. There isn't much to buy. So those are very long term associations that have like pinched into our genes, you can say. So it runs so deep in the family, several generations back, that it's kind of hard to dig it up and release. But that's the way to do it and to heal.
So let's kind of step back and go into your history. How did you come to be where you are in your journey with money and helping others?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So yeah, I come from this background, very complicated, complicated when it comes to money because, as I said, post-communist, we didn't have access to international financial markets and investments up until the 90s. So you can compare that to a free economy like the US that has had all of these stock markets going up and down, and people just kind of being used to it. And here it came a reality for us in the 90s. So we have several decades to catch up with. And not only that, when we switched from socialist regime to more liberal and democracy and all of that, that created a very weird period in which we faced a lot of financial crises. We had hyperinflation. It just wiped out millions, like millions. And then we had so many Ponzi schemes around here, like at every corner. And people were getting robbed of their savings so in such a big, scale that it just created this constant fear and constant reluctancy to even talk about it anymore. So money was off the table as a topic of conversation. So when I grew up, I started, having my career, a family, and all of that. And at some point, my two daughters grew old enough so that they could start taking more care of themselves, and I had this little bit of space open up for me where I could think about the future. So where I see our family in 10, 20, 30 years and how we want to live our lives then. So that naturally led me to think about how we will have the money that we need. And when I looked around and I realized that something like 90% of retirees in my country lead a very miserable life because they rely completely on our state pension system. That rang a bell. It was like a wake up call for me that I couldn't rely on it. I have to do something. And what you do, you gotta learn. So I started from absolute scratch, and I spent years learning how to manage money, how to save, how to invest. I started with books, courses, programs, seminars, live, online. Anything you can imagine, any way possible for me to learn, I devoured it. And over time, I built this system for our family where I could have the clarity and the confidence that I know exactly what's happening and I know exactly what steps to take to get us to the future that we desire. Along that journey, I started sharing everything that I've learned because that was like years and years of knowledge that were just piling, and I had to let it go. I had to share with everyone else. So I started a blog. I started a Facebook group where I could share tips and tricks and blog articles and all of that. And there came a point where the idea for writing a book on managing money from a completely different perspective, especially for women, came into my life. And I say that it came because I can't take credit for thinking of it, coming up with it. It was just such a divine coincidence from which the book was born. And yeah, that's the where I am right now, just sharing about the book, sharing what I've learned, and connecting with people so I can help more people, especially women. Yeah.
That's like a perfect segue. So, kind of just map out if someone is sitting home and they're like, where do I even start? Like, I'm looking at my purse, but what do I do from there? And what does a journey feel like? Should they work with a coach like you, like kind of just emotionally prepare for what those steps and what that journey feels like?
Well, if I could refer to the book that I wrote, because it for me it is the first step for every woman who feels absolutely confused, frustrated, doesn't know where to start, but feels the call to do something. So uh, if I could just show the book and share its title, it's called Unleash Your Inner Money Goddess: Ancient Female Wisdom for Modern Wealth. And in it, I explore 5 ancient goddess archetypes and how they relate to modern day women and their relationship with money. And I'm saying this to say that when we start exploring our relationship with money, it is a good idea. For me, it was, the way that I got it. I don't know from where, but it just came to me this way. Um, it's good to go back to those ancient wisdom stories, see what generations and generations before us have shared in those timeless life lessons, because what they have as pieces of wisdom in those stories, in those myths, are applicable in our modern day lives, because they come from such a deep place within that they're true for the whole of humanity. So these archetypes show us ways of being with money and behaving with money, and they're so different. Like we have one of them is this fearless decision maker, strategist, planner. We have the complete opposite archetype of another goddess who is all about flow and abundance and beauty and grace and just allowing the universe to send her abundance and wealth. And in between, we have the one who's so mystical and follows her intuition to make important decisions. And we have the transformational journey from a picture perfect situation to a complete disaster, like shattering your life, and how to bring those pieces together and build something from the ground up. So all of these stories have something to relate to, and for every woman it's different. Like a few of the people who already read the book share that when they start reading, they can recognize themselves in one goddess, and then they read the next story and they're like, oh, wait, I have this in me too. And that's true for all of us. We all have pieces of these archetypes within us, and one could be like more primary, where you feel more in alignment with that specific archetype, but then you can recognize yourself in others too. And when you see their strengths, when you see their personality traits and how you embody them in your own life, and then you see the shadow sides, and you can think about, oh, wait, yes, I can see that in myself, then maybe there's something I can do about it. So these are just ways for us to reveal parts of our own psychology and our own behavior, so that we can take the next step. So this is only the point where you get the clarity of who you are, of your archetypes, and then take it as a starting point, like a ground zero from where you can take the next step.
I love this. I've had so many guests on this week, and we've talked about kind of like self-discovery and learning your love language and learning your attachment style that then kind of drives how you act in your adult romantic and friendship relationships. And I never thought to ever analyze my money self. How I thought there were two types of people, spenders and savers. And the joke is always a spender needs to marry a saver, because two of the same is just too much of a good thing, so to speak. And so I never thought about approaching it from that perspective. And when you put it into the beautiful envelope of a goddess, it definitely takes a lot of the fear and stigma around money away. You're just identifying your type just like you would any other, like your love language. So, have you noticed anything in your research where this might be driven by life experiences or childhood traumas, or kind of how you talk about your experience coming through a communist country? How does that impact which goddess type someone is likely to be? I guess how much of it is our control and how much of it is
Hmm.
influenced by just our life?
Well, this is kind of the conversation of how much of our personality comes from genes and from cultural influences, right? I would say the majority comes from historical upbringing and cultural behaviors and habits and thoughts that patterns that we just grow up with. So for me, as I said, coming from this background of fear, of frustration, of not wanting to talk about it, life taught me in different ways, how to get money, how to work for money, and then I needed to learn how to manage it. But coming to realize my own archetypes and how to work with them came to at a later point in my life. So that's a point I think where every one of us, doesn't matter male, female, needs to sit down and really think about themselves, like getting to know yourself. That what was the Greek saying? Know thyself, right? And when you step into this on this journey to self discovery, it you start to reveal all these childhood traumas or incidents or anything that has left a mark on you, and you start to bring those to the conscious level. So when you realize, you work on them, and that's only where you can start to learn about the archetypes and how they come into play with your own life. But I don't think that at any point before that you can even know there such a thing exists, right? Until you start on your journey to self discovery and self understanding, you can't really pay much attention to these archetypes or psychology patterns. There are many different ways to know more about yourself. There are so many personality, what was the quizzes and personality tests. Yes, like Briggs Myers and the inner saboteurs. I think there's a very good one, personality test. Yeah, you first need to have the desire to explore and really get into who you truly are on the deep level, and then these different systems and how to's come, and depending on what you connect with most, what resonates with you most, that's where you go, and that's where you get the kind of help that you feel called to bring into your life, so you can work on those traumas and heal your relationship, not only with money, but even with parents, with kids, relationships, career moves. I've seen a lot of people needing help to understand themselves so that they can advance in their career, in their business. So it applies on to all areas of life.
I really love when we first spoke the other day. What I loved about your money management, we'll say, is that usually when we have these conversations, they start with, let's talk about how much money you make. Let's talk about your debt. Let's get an Excel sheet and a calculator and all these really aggressive tools. And let's make a budget. And that's usually how financial conversations happen. Or, you need to, and then they kind of transition into, you need to eat out less, or you need to shop less. You need to make this change that you're doing to self-harm. I've never before you had anyone approach it from a internal space, like kind of, where am I, what is my money personality, and then how does that drive my decisions? Because understanding yourself, it helps not only bring clarity to why you do what you do and you don't feel so crazy and lost, but it also helps you to know, okay, this is the pattern for this archetype as you define them. So this is, I fit into this, so this is the pattern for how to move forward. So I just love the perspective that you bring. It's more holistic, I think is the word I'm looking for, than just here's a calculator and an Excel sheet and here's what you're doing wrong and what you need to change. So what are your personal goals? So, you kind of talk about your journey with money, and you wanted to write your book and share, but just what did you personally hope to achieve for yourself, for your daughters, when you started on this journey?
First, I want to piggyback on what you just said about the usual way of talking about money, spreadsheets. All of that is so true and so common. And I believe the main reason for that is because of the whole way the financial system has evolved over the years. And that way was completely related to the male energies of being specific with numbers, seeing the stock prices going up and down, and calculating how much we should save, how much we should invest, what to expect, and all that. The spreadsheets, all that's all male energy, and and now it's not only about the topic of money, but I see a lot of other topics nowadays being approached in a more feminine and more holistic way, where we first talk about the emotions, the underlying layers of understanding and relations. So it's money, as I said, career, children, relationship with others, anything. So this totally different approach, it relies on, it speaks and embodies the feminine energy of doing things in the world. Probably I should say being in the world, as opposed to doing, which is the active male thing that we are used to. But more and more topics are being now discussed through the feminine perspective. And that's really beautiful. And I think we need more and more of that, because that's how we will change the current paradigms in all the systems that we see. With that, I have to share that my initial way of doing things was exactly that stereotypical way of creating like the most complicated spreadsheet you have ever seen. When I started doing this, I had like 10 or 20, I think it was 10 columns, 20 rows, where I would put down everything that we brought in, how much we spend, how much we need to save for this, like different buckets with different time frames. So it was really crazy, but that's how I was taught. And I thought this was the only way, right? This is the right way to do it. But then when I evolved through my own journey and I learned to let myself have more trust in the flow and in the process of life unfolding before me. I learned to step away from this perspective and try to bring in more and more of that feminine energy. So right now I do have specific goals that I can quantify, but I definitely prefer to stay more in that young, in the, like yin and yang. I now tend to stay more in the young energy and just enjoy the flowering of abundance and of wealth that is surrounding me. As regards to the specific goals, I have like the standard goals for every woman to make sure we have enough funds for our kids if in case they want to go to college. In one of them will be going to college in probably 3 4 years, the other one in 6 7. So I need to be prepared to that. I need to be prepared for retirement years. So my long-term goals for 20 years ahead of now, I have those. And every month I know how much I'm investing in my long-term plan and how much I'm saving for the shorter-term goals. And anything else that's left to spend, we decide how to spend it as a family, and we tend to prefer spending on vacations, things that bring us, create memories for us, and just create new experiences, and traveling, a lot of traveling.
I do want to ask you to kind of, because whenever my husband says, "Let's talk about money," or "Let's talk about our budget," I just pray that the heavens open and like a gargoyle comes out and just like eats me and just gets me out of the moment. So how would you suggest or coach that folks could start conversations with their family about how to, hey, we have this extra dollar amount. Let's decide as a family how we want to spend it or not spend it. How would you kind of start or give a suggestion of how to start those conversations without anxiety and fear?
That's a very interesting question. It very much depends on the stage of where the family is, right? If it's a newly formed family, the conversation goes one way. If it's like you've been married for 10, 20 years, it's a whole different situation. But to avoid, or not really avoid, but overcome this anxiety to talk about money and how to spend it, I would suggest focusing more on your family values. What you as a family, with your partner, kids, no kids, doesn't really matter, but what values do you hold dear to yourselves as a family? What's really important for you as a family? For our family, for example, it's stability and security. So we need to be sure that we have enough set aside in case some emergency comes up and we need to cover for it. That's why, for instance, for our family, it's important for us to have medical insurances that go way beyond what we have in our state healthcare, because that's important to us. Health is important to us. We're all insured, and security is important. So we have this emergency fund set up, and we know that no matter what happens, we can easily overcome the hurdle. But the conversation needs to start with the values, and where do you come together to feel like this is the one direction that our family is going, and there's no conflict about it. Everyone's on the same page, and from that point you get to take a look at how you spend. Okay, if we say that health is important to us as a family, how much do we spend on junk food, for example? Or we say health is important, but none of us has a gym membership, right? There could be other ways, to to do the health stuff, but these are like prompts to get you thinking about, okay, how does our spending as a family actually reflect what we say we believe in and what we say we value? And that's a wonderful starting point for a conversation between partners. And even um, if the kids are old enough to participate in these conversations, it's even better.
I I love that. I never have thought myself, or have ever heard anyone talk about money from a position of value. And I love values like as a family. We talk about that in regard to how we treat our neighbors, if we go to church on Sundays, like we approach it from those perspectives. But I never had thought about the two values and money kind of overlapping in a family. We had a thing we did a couple years ago, a negative jar. And we had just a cycle in our family of just saying negative things, not mean things, but just negative things, or kind of poking fun at the other person. And so we had a negative jar, and if we said something negative, we'd put a little dollar in the jar. And so that was a reflection of our values. We had valued not being negative and not kind of being mean girls. But it never occurred to me to approach family budgeting and family spending from that same perspective. And I like that because it really helps in my mind, it helps to ground you. If as a family, like the example you use about junk food, like as a family, if we've decided we want to be healthy, then there's no argument in the grocery store about why we're not buying these sweets or these snacks. There's no confusion about what we're going to have to eat. We know we've pre-planned that we're going to have these healthy options. It really stretches out into so many other aspects of our individual and our family lives. So I love that you bravely went on this journey yourself, and then that you were able to kind of document it in your book, and then kind of come back and bring water to the rest of us who are still kind of in the fire, so that we can kind of get to the space where you are. So tell us just where folks can find you, find your book, where we can learn more about kind of what you've discovered.
So the book is available on Amazon, and here's the good news for anyone who has Kindle Unlimited. It's free for Kindle Unlimited users, so you can download it and read it absolutely free. It's available in both ebook version and as a paperback. And it's interesting that I've noticed a few people first read the ebook version and then they go back and order the paperback because they loved it so much they want to have it in the in
Mhm.
paper next to them. So I really appreciate those moments. I love when things like this happen, and it tells me that really the book is helpful and valuable to the readers to a point where they want to have it with them all the time. So it's on Amazon, and once you get through the book you'll get a link to quiz that you can do to find out your own money goddess archetypes, or who's primary, who's second, comes third, fourth, fifth. And as for me, you can find me on Facebook. If you search for Victoria Chervenkova, you would find me there. I also have this Facebook group, as I mentioned, Money Master Moms, where I share a lot of the tips and the from the book and from my blog. So yeah, I'm also on LinkedIn, but Facebook is my major thing. So you'll always find me there.
I mean, just out of curiosity, do you have any plans to like host a retreat somewhere beautiful where we can all fly and like go through this journey together? I feel like this needs to be like, I'm thinking like Arizona or somewhere, where you go to those like 3 day retreats and you come out and you've self-discovered your goddess, and you're no longer shopping at midnight on Amazon, like you're just cured. It's just that's what I mean we need to have.
Okay, remind me, did we talk about this? Because this is something that I'm actually planning to do, and I don't know, I don't remember sharing with.
No, I
A lot
was
of
just sitting
people.
here thinking, selfishly, I was like, okay, I now understand that I'm not a crazy person when it comes to money and my just inner desire to run and hide and to catch on fire when it is even brought up. Now I feel like, okay, that there's a book I can read to help me understand this, but I was just wanting more. I was like, I need like 3 days of intensive, like, I need to be cured of this. So, no, it was just my selfish desire.
Okay, this is manifestation in writing in practice here because we actually talked about this with a coach from South Africa. She is based in South Africa, and we were discussing this beautiful idea of having a retreat for how to be a money goddess, and we thought the best place to do that would be Greece because
Yeah.
it's all about goddess energy and ancient ruins. And now that you're bringing this up, I'm like, okay, maybe we should speed it up. I mean, we didn't have a specific date, but now I think we need to think about that a little bit more. But
Yes.
yeah, yes, we will be having events like this. And I also have a program coming up which will be a deep dive into the goddess archetypes, working with those, and then bringing in like practical experts backed financial strategies and planning on how to, yes, apply everything that you learn in real life up to a point where you can confidently start investing on your own in sustainable long-term way. So that's coming up shortly. I will be announcing it very, very soon. And yeah, the retreats is, I think it's coming on its own. I think it's getting a life of its own now.
I need one of the sessions to be like that there's a warm room where you feel like you're like in the womb and you're safe, and there's like a grandma person there who just rocks you while you read the book. Like
Oh,
that's what I need for one of the
that's beautiful. I'll write it down. I'll definitely write that down
be
as a
like,
practice to start with.
yes, yes, yes. For those that need the grandma, this is where you go, room 701. That's it. Well, I loved meeting you when we did our little quick intro prior to today, and this has been everything I thought it would be and more, and I just can't thank you. I know there are so many people, myself included, who needs to go through a self-discovery with money and redefine their relationship with money from a broader perspective than just are you a spender, are you a saver, and why, and then kind of how to be the best of that. So I just love that you bring it so much more clarity and humanity, to money and kind of and our life. It is a lifelong experience with that we have with money. When we start as children, getting an allowance or money in our birthday card, and we may take a budgeting class in high school, but we never talk about it from this perspective. So I thank you so much. And I'm definitely going to be following you on socials so I don't miss when you announce the retreat, so I could be the first one to sign up, because I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jillian, and for having me here, having the opportunity to share about this because you are right. It is a very different perspective. I myself, when I got the idea, I tried, I come from a very strong marketing background. So what I do first, I do my marketing research.
Mhm.
And I don't see anyone talking about money in this particular way, let alone bringing in such ancient wisdom in the form of myths and goddess archetypes. So I was like, okay, well, maybe that's now's the time to do that. And I'm so happy to be this vessel through which this concept is now alive in this world, and we can talk more and more about it. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share this message.
Awesome. Well, I have loved it. We'll put all your contact info in the show notes so folks can find you and follow you and join me at your conference, at your retreat. And I just really appreciate you coming in today.